Who are the most important people to you in this world right now, today? And how connected, ultimately, do you feel to them? For as long as I can remember, I've always loved connections and relationships and experiences. I was that little girl who always had to touch and see and feel everything around me. And unfortunately, I was also that little girl who was on a leash at the mall because I would approach every single stranger hoping and thinking that they were going to be my new best friend. After several years of trial and error and different activities and programs, I finally found my level, my outlet for connection through the wonderful world of cheerleading. I loved everything that cheerleading offered, and as soon as I could make a team, I embarked on the better part of my life as being a cheerleader and including making it all the way to the NFL. Being a cheerleader encompasses everything that I love in this world, getting to be as loud as I possibly can, forming and creating relationships with my teammates, the experience of having the athleticism, and I would be remiss if I also did not admit that I also loved the sparkly pom-poms and the matching garment bags. So you can imagine precisely how much I was out of my element when I was dropped off one day in the middle of the Florida Everglades with nothing but my bare pom-pomless hands and a backpack. You see, on December 27th of 2013, I made the brave decision to leave behind my husband and my hairspray and embark on this amazing adventure in front of me. Aside from being a cheerleader, I also was involved in a program called Prior Leadership. And a part of the leadership program, we studied 4 pillars of leadership. And this portion of the class was called situational leadership. Our professors said to us, we can't teach you situational leadership in the comfort of your own home. We have to get you out of your element and into the elements to truly see what kind of leadership skills you really have. And so there I was, in the middle of the Florida Everglades, by myself, not knowing a single other person, and then wondering, what in the heck did I really get myself into? That first day, I met the 7 other crewmates that I would share with, eat with, live with, strategize with over the next 2 weeks. I also learned that there were no guys that were going to be in my crew, and that was another panic attack that I had of who was going to actually carry these large water jugs that we had to have with us. That first day, I also learned how to read a chart and a compass, things that I had never done before in my life. And I also had to leave behind several things that were called unnecessary items. Now, leaving behind my iPhone and Google Maps in Surrey was incredibly cruel. But I had actually was far more shocked to learn that I had packed entirely too many pairs of underwear. Turns out, clean underwear is far less important than having clean drinking water and warm socks to sleep in. After that first day, we got all of our items in order. And the second day, we rowed out into the murky waters of the Florida Everglades. And again, I asked myself, what in the heck did I get myself into? Those first few days were really uncomfortable. And by about day 4, we finally felt like we were gelling as a team and that we were skillfully navigating the murky waters of alligators and the mosquitoes. And I kid you not, I mean, there were mosquito nets from head to toe, from sun up to sundown. And the next picture that I'm going to share with you is an actual photo that I took while I was in the Everglades. That was my reality, day in and day out for 10 plus days. And while by about day 4, things were starting to get a little bit more smooth, and I was personally getting more comfortable with the idea that I was still wearing the same shirt from day 1, I actually learned one of the biggest lessons that I will ever learn in my lifetime today. And while most people would think that the greatest lessons that I learned from embarking on this adventure was the original intention of situational leadership, or even perhaps ridding myself of the superficial world of sparkly costumes and pom-poms. But the greatest lesson that I learned was profoundly how disconnected I had become from being able to connect with other human beings without the use of technology. Exactly 33 days before I took this trip, this is a photo that my sister-in-law took of me while I was holding my nephew in my arms. You can see, as embarrassing as this is to me, precisely how passionate I was about trying to connect with somebody through technology at the exact moment that I could have been having a really important connection with another human being, specifically and literally in my own two arms. And in those first few days of the canoe trip, I started to wonder, what have I done to myself? And honestly, if any of my friends or peers back home, if they had been placed in the exact same situation, would they have ultimately survived this same test of having to get through life without technology? Those first few days were filled with small talk. We were complete strangers in a completely uncomfortable setting. I remember turning to one girl on the first day and asking her to tell me a little bit more about herself, and she started to tell me a little bit about her family and a cat before trailing off, and we just started paddling again. The next day, over a snack break, I turned to another girl in my crew and asked the same thing, and we both awkwardly just started to stare off into the distance and just hoping for that snack break to get over. And I wondered, what have we become as a society, as a world? Is this technologically advanced culture that we live in today really the place that we want to be? You see, we're so accustomed to it that it's socially acceptable for us to be looking at our phones or looking at our computer screens or our laptops or our iPads, and instead of actually forming those connections with each other. It's so easy for us today to advance a relationship over dating apps with a swipe of a finger. Or it's really easy for us to wish more and more people happy birthday every morning because social media populates it right then and there for us without us even having to leave our bedrooms. And ultimately, we have placed entirely far more importance on the idea that someone has liked something that we've placed in our newsfeed as opposed to actually getting an in-person hug. As I began to think more and more about this, I realized that the more that I got to know my nephew as well, that children really show us a completely different look and aspect of life. In fact, as I've been watching my nephew grow up over the last couple of years, I've learned that specifically at this picture, at the age of 6 months, that he may not have known how to use his body to roll over or to walk. But I learned one small thing, that if I could just simply lock eyes with him and then create some kind of goofy expression on my face, that you would see his entire body light up and this incredibly amazing, adorable smile from ear to ear. Now, he may not know what that smile means just yet either, but you and I, we don't need facts or technology or science to share with us. We know that this little fella feels joy throughout his entire body. It turns out that that level of disconnect was not unique just to me. In fact, Dr. Sherry Turkle, professor of social studies, science, and technology at MIT, says, technology gives us the illusion of companionship without actually having friendship. Technology allows us to connect with each other without ever having to lose control. Dr. Turkle believes that we live in this world where so many people make excuses to actually have face-to-face conversation or interaction, and that those people that are refusing to have those interactions are losing the ability to emotionally connect with one another. The reality is that we're never going to be robots. We're always going to have those emotional things coming through our body. In fact, emotions are what rule us and drive us. Emotions are what we feel when we're belly laughing over froyo with our best friends. Or emotions are what keep us up late at night when we've had a particularly hard breakup. We're never going to be wired as robots. So why are we treating every minute of our days like we are? And so as I've been thinking about this over the last couple of years, I have one final question that I want to ask you. Technology is so prevalent in our world today. It gives us so many amazing opportunities. I'm not advocating that we chuck our laptops or our phones out the window, or that we all have to take a trek to the Everglades with 7 other strangers. But my question to you tonight is this. If you're not feeling emotionally connected, if you're not feeling fulfilled in those relationships, would you actually have the courage to put down your technology and do something about it? Thank you.